Learning objective 5 is what do you need to know about financial analysis? And so in this particular case, we'll look at a case ABC Beverage, and they have financial statements for 5 years, and you do analysis. And what do you know, and what do you not know about this company? So when we do analysis, we look at different layers. So this is an example of something you may have seen during your immersion or your prior education is Porter's 5 forces. It's a pretty useful construct. It's been used for decades now. But it's saying when you're analyzing an industry, first level is who are the competitors. So a company works in the context of an industry which has competitors. Second are who are the buyers? Who's buying from your company? Next is who are the suppliers? So if you are Hershey's making candy bars, you buy sugar. So that's a key raw material. And are there substitutes? Coffee or iced coffee is a competitor. Next is new entrants. Starbucks may choose to enter the cold beverage business. So these are industry analysis, not necessarily a company. These are classic good practice in terms of company analysis. So when we understand that, then we can then look at the entire context of the 5 forces, and then the outer ring are the stakeholders. We've seen these stakeholders before. So the stakeholders then are watching a company, its competitors, and an industry in order to form their points of view. And if they're a stock investor, they want to buy or sell your stock. It's going to be done on this type of basis, not just the company, but the context of the company in an industry relative to competition. So a tool, again, you may have seen in the past or during immersion is called SWOT. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we look at internal factors like what's our strengths and weaknesses as a company. In that ABC Beverage, what are our strengths and weaknesses in our products, our distribution, our brand value, etc. Then there are external. What are opportunities that we have yet to take advantage of for new products, new markets? And what are the threats? What are people doing that are competitors, or what are regulators doing to watch over our industry more carefully? So those are external. And so we end up with SWOT analysis. And when we do this, it again is a very commonly used tool, decades old, that still has value today. And there's no one paradigm, no one framework that is the magic bullet to doing analysis. We do all these kinds of things, and then each of them has you glean some insight. And when you put all the insight together, then you form a judgment. And that's how it works in professional analysis. There's usually not one yes or no answer, right? There's these different factors, sometimes reinforcing each other, sometimes contradicting each other, but all of them are relevant to your judgment. Just a side note, when I present SWOT, I prefer to present it as SWOTO, SWTO. And what I'm getting at is you do strengths and weaknesses, right? That's evaluating a company. But if you go by the SWOT word, then you do opportunities next and then threats. So you end with a threat, right? And in a presentation dynamic, you're better off saying, here's my strengths and weaknesses, here are the threats that we're going to address, and here are opportunities, right? So typically when we're presenting to a management team, we would not present it in a SWOT order. We would go strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, because you want to end high. You want to end on what is your takeaway. The takeaway is what are our opportunities. So that's what we tend to do. All right, competitive advantage. This is an important consideration. Again, this is even less quantitative, but it's something we have to make in a judgment if we're an investor. Out of all the companies you could buy, all the industries or all the companies in one industry, which one do you buy? And so we're looking at who has an edge, right? Who has an edge by virtue of better product, better distribution, better brand, better R&D. What is it, right? So we look at ideas for who has competitive advantage. And where does it come from? It could come from product differentiation like technology or design or marketing, or come from a cost position where you simply are the cheapest source of blank. Solar panels, perfect example. You might have some beautifully branded solar panels in the US, amazing technology in solar panels, but if it's not cheap enough, then the low cost leader, in this case Chinese manufactured solar panels would just take over photovoltaic cells. And this has happened globally in the solar business, is that China's low cost production has enabled it to grab huge market share simply because it's the most economical way to put in a solar array. So we could differentiate by product, or we could differentiate by cost, but in the long run, there's a lot of economics. So low cost position is a strategically enviable position. And that is a core to a lot of strategy consulting, is who can achieve low cost position in a defined business. And the one that does that wins. It doesn't mean it's cheap. I don't want to get that wrong, because a solar panel from China works. It's not that it's cheap. And the other thing is, like, it could be a luxury good. It could be a high performance good. Lexus is a great example of a high performance car. But given the amount of technology and performance and value, it wins because for the dollars paid for a Lexus, it has been, in the eyes of consumers, a better buy than, say, some of the great German auto manufacturers, right? So being a low-cost leader does not mean you're the cheapest. It means for a given definition of a product, who can create it at the lowest cost. And that's what we mean by cost leader, not just cheapest. It's value-based. So finalizing Mod 1, our learning objectives. 1, who are the users and suppliers of financial information? And we saw the stakeholders be the answer there. Second is the accounting equation, simply assets equals liabilities plus equity. And what are the 4 financial statements? The balance sheet, income statement, statement of shareholders' equity, and statement of cash flows. That's it, 4. Third is some examples of profitability analysis. We looked at ROA and asset turnover as some examples. Accounting principles and oversight. We looked at the self-regulation by way of FASB, and we looked at governmental sourced regulations such as SEC and PCAOB. And then we looked at kind of a broader context of an industry, and we see that 3 tools that we often use would be 5 forces, and also SWOT, and also financial analysis, right? These are 3 levels of analysis we would do to look at a company or an industry.